Hey guys, happy hump day. Today, I actually want to talk about females and how to tell if they are uh, getting gravid or becoming gravid, or the non technical way to say it is if they're becoming pregnant. Um, because I spent the most of my time breeding ball pythons learning to tell the signs that a snake is becoming gravid and not relying on an ultrasound machine. And while I do now have an ultrasound machine, I honestly maybe get it out once a month, set it up, and maybe I even only start to use it for some of my smaller females or the less proven females. It doesn't take very long, but it's just not one of those things that I honestly feel like I need to do routinely. I've learned to kind of tell how a female is starting to actually look like it's becoming gravid. And basically, the early steps are obviously you need to start pairing the snake to a male. Once you start seeing locks, um, within a few months, and some of them can take forever. This female, for instance, I don't even know if she's gravid at this point, and she doesn't look like it. She might be starting to build follicles a little. I mean, last time I measured her follicles, it was like 20, and that was like 2 months ago. Um, I've been breeding her for over a year, and she still hasn't shown any signs that she was producing. And she's had like 10 locks at this point with two different males. But the way she's laying in here isn't telling me that she's gravid. Now, maybe, you know, sooner than later we'll get there. But typically, what you start to see with a female when they start to become gravid or build follicles a little faster, I should say. Let's start there. So you pair the snake up. Eventually, you'll start seeing that female up on the cool end of the tub. Let me see if there's a way to kind of visualize this. I don't think I have any females, unfortunately, right now that are bull wrapping, but I'm going to look to see if we can find one. But they start to bull wrap, and that means that they start coming up towards the front of the tub. They try to get cool. They try to cool their bodies off because they are working really hard. Let's just use this as an example. I don't know if she is or not. This isn't really a bull wrap, but they'll typically stay up here on the cool end. They will, woo, jeez. They will actually, I'm gonna put her in retreat mode so she doesn't bite me. They will physically wrap themselves around this bowl to cool off, because they're like having hot flashes that they are building those follicles. And this is a good example of a angry. She's actually never struck at me, but now that she is, what you want to do is get up here in the head. And this is like a kind of a side note. She's not gonna try to bite me anymore. I kind of have her subdued. You know, get her into runaway mode instead of defense mode. But so, anyways, they'll as tightly as she's wrapped here, they will physically wrap their whole body around in there. Sometimes even their head and neck will be in the water bowl, and that means they're building. That means they are starting to get closer to. They're getting bigger follicles. They're getting ready to go. They're getting ready to ovulate. And then at that point, you're going to want to try to get in probably another lock or so at that point in time. The next step is they are starting to ovulate, and that's when you see the big, like football-sized swelling in the snake's body. And this one is at that point. I don't know how well you're going to see it. So typically, so there's her head. Here's her neck. This is probably the halfway point in her body, and the swelling is probably right here. It's like in the lower third of the body, maybe like 75%ish of the way down on the body, like the 75% mark. They will get an enormous amount of swelling. And this typically you'll see this. The peak of ovulation is maybe like around a day's time frame, but you will start to see that swelling, and it is very noticeable for quite a few days. So it's not like it's something where you're gonna miss it because it just happened right then and there. If your snake didn't just eat a giant rat within 3 days, and you see a big giant, football-shaped lump in the back half of the body, that's the snake ovulating. So then what you look for after that is a prelay shed. Typically, depending on how early you see it, you're going to see that prelay shed, a week or so, 2 weeks, when you first start after noticing the ovulation. It depends when you notice the ovulation. If you notice at the end of the ovulation, the shed's going to come sooner. If you notice the beginning of the ovulation, it's going to take a little longer. But the next thing you're going to look for after you see this ovulation is a prelay shed. Now, this female up here, I had no expectation that she even ovulated, because I wasn't really paying close attention to her. Now, because of the way she was laying back here, I did make note, if you can see here on her chart, that she had a prelay shed on question mark on 7/19, because I did not measure her follicles. She has had 3 locks, as you can see there, and I haven't measured her follicles in quite a while, and it was like 5 a long time ago. But she's a big adult-sized girl. So I measured, I took note of when what I thought could possibly be the prelay shed was, and I actually think at this point that it probably was. So hopefully I have eggs from her within 2 days. But once you start seeing a female on the back end of their tub here, just, she's moved all the substrate out of this back section. She's like nesting basically at this point. You will start to see, again, the back half of their body, which is where all the eggs are, starting to develop. You will start to see their body. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it from this angle. Maybe you can a little bit. You'll start to see that the spine is a lot more pronounced at this point in time. And it's almost like you start to see the lower back half of their body almost start to elongate sideways. Like the spine will be sticking out more. And think about how big those eggs are, in their body. Their bodies start to kind of widen, it looks like, and flatten down to fit those eggs in there. So I think this female, and she's been coiled up in more of a circular pattern than this recently, but typically they're coiled up like in a nice circle. Back on the heat, you will eventually sometimes see them, up towards the front getting some water. You will see them kinked up in weird positions every once in a while. The female I had lay last week. This girl, let's see, where are you? This girl, when she laid last week, I was fine. She was up here she was a week late. I'd find her up here drinking water. She'd be kinked upside down, kind of in half here in the back. And I knew that was her prelay shed when she had it. But that's what she was doing. But still, typically, 90% of the time you're looking in here, this female is, look, she's like, hey, what are you doing in here? They're going to be back here over on the heat. And they're going to be in a nice, tight, kind of spiral design most of the time that you look back in there. So, on another side note, I really hope this girl actually is going to lay here in 2 weeks. So she's a super OD Desert Ghost Het Pied from Aussie. Now, I did breed her to 2 males, but the first, they're both going to be, it's going to be a DG Pied clutch either way. But the first male is an OD Pied Het DG. He only had 1 lock. And the second male was actually an OD Leo DG Pied from Aussie. So that's the male. He got 2 locks in. Then I'm hoping if she is gravid, that's the sire, because obviously it gives me better odds at hitting DG Pieds, but it also gives me the extra gene in there. It gives me the leopard. So if that male is the sire, half the babies in this clutch would be DG Pieds. They're all OD because the female's super OD. So like half the babies, all of the babies would come out OD DG Het Pied, and half the babies would be OD DG Pied, and there's a good possibility that half the babies are super OD, and so there's like really powerful snakes in this clutch, and I need a lot more DG Pieds. I actually don't have any DG Pied females. I just have 2 of these girls, and I have a bunch of double hets that I produced last year that I'm holding back. But that's an exciting clutch. Hopefully that works out well for me, because this other one isn't really developing anything yet. And I have this pied het DG female that hasn't really been doing a whole lot yet with anybody. So those are my two best shots at making DG. Some really pretty DG pied. But that's sort of the progression through trying to figure out if your female's pregnant or not, gravid or not. The first thing is obviously you need to start pairing them. You need to see some locks with those snakes. The second thing is you'll start to see, within a few months, hugging the cold side. They're cold seeking. They are bull wrapping. They're submerging themselves in the water bowl to try to keep cool. And then the next step is you'll see the ovulation. Like, these are like the big mile markers, the things that are very easy to notice. So then the third thing is the ovulation. That's when they get the giant swelling in the bottom half of their body. It's extremely noticeable. They might not even be taking food at that point. So when you see a giant swelling in the bottom part of their body, you'll know what it is. It's the ovulation. So then the fourth thing is the prelay shed. That's going to be within a week or so, 2 weeks after the ovulation when you first notice it. And then usually 30 days after the prelay shed is when you're looking for the eggs. So like this female, for instance, I'm not 100% sure that she ovulated and this is a prelay shed. But I marked this down on here that when she shed on July 19th, what day is today? August 6th. So within 2 weeks, if she is gravid, I know that I need to start looking for eggs. So I am going to be hyper aware of this. I'm not going to leave her alone. Like, I'm going to be checking this routinely once it gets closer to the 19th to make sure she's gravid. So if you've been breeding a snake and you're not sure if it's gravid or not, you're not sure if what you saw was an ovulation or not, still take note of when that prelay shed is. Because the majority of my snakes, when they have their prelay shed, they are laying eggs basically a month out, like 30 days out. It's almost like clockwork. That one girl last week was a week late. But if I say, that one shed on the 19th, it's probably, if it is gravid, going to lay on the 19th or within a day or two of that. So, I guess exclude February because there's only usually 28 days in the month. But for most other months, you're like basically around 30 days. So if you don't know if it's a prelay shed, make note of it anyways and keep really close attention to the female when it gets closer to that period. But if you think it had a prelay shed and that female is just on the backside, on the heat the whole time, it makes a nest, pulls and pushes all of the substrate out, and then it's coiled up the majority of the time you look in there, she's probably gravid. So those are the telltale signs there of whether or not your female is starting to produce follicles, eggs, and hopefully nice babies for you. So fingers crossed on that, girl. That's a really, really cool clutch. We still have a bunch of other stuff that we're breeding here, so hopefully we have good odds with clown pieds this year the rest of the way. Hopefully we have good odds with DG pieds the rest of the way. We have some DG clown. We have 2 DG clown clutches in the incubator. We have a clown pied clutch in the incubator, 2 clown pied clutches. So we have 2 clown pied clutches and 2 DG pied, or 2 DG clown clutches. This would be my first DG pied clutch if this comes out. And we have a lot more stuff too. So hopefully the rest of the way is pretty cool. A lot of powerful snakes. And then that doesn't even include like my clown stuff. I have 2 pastel blackhead clowns. I have a mahogany clown. I have a chocolate clown, all these females. And I have males with black pastel, red stripe, cypress, possible redhead, yellow belly, confusion, orange dream, yellow belly, pinstripe, leopard. I have like these clown males that just aren't locking up for me yet. So like I have like probably 15 plus clown females with a bunch of different genes in them that are ready to go, that I'm just waiting on these males to like start locking up to somebody. I really don't want to take the Super OD YB Fire Clown Pied male to those clown females because he doesn't have the most codoms in him. I mean, he's obviously usable, but like I really want, if I have clown females, I want to spread black pastel, red stripe, cypress, confusion, and possible redhead to as many clown females as I can, so that I'm making like, you know, more highly desirable clowns. So that's, those projects are a little further down the road because I'm not even really getting locks out of them yet. But so we're double recessive heavy probably this part of the year, and then probably clown heavy towards the end of the year, I would assume. And then we'll start it back all over again. And then we have the black-head leopard Mojave hypopied black exanthic male that's putting work in too. I'm breeding him to 2 of my black exanthic females that I bred last year. He's completely unrelated to them. I'm breeding him into my clown pied hypo project. So there's a lot of different stuff going on here. I'm trying to, I need to produce a lot more stuff this year, but I'm even looking for pied het TSK, because TSK and black exanthic are the same line now. Pied het TSK or TSK het pied are females that can match up with that hypo-pied male, so that I can make some neat looking TSK pieds that have black-head leopard Mojave in them. So, I'm not looking to buy right now, but I'm keeping my eye open on those for potentially later in the year, so that I can take kind of a shortcut to get there. I have some females I can breed him to this year once they grow out. But, any shortcuts in those sorts of projects are awesome, especially with him going to work. So we will see you guys tomorrow.